This is the Blue Ghost Lunar Lander that just recently landed beautifully, upright and softly on the moon. Crashed horribly on the moon. Landed on the moon and then encountered the Vogon constructor fleet on its way to demolish Earth. We have no idea, it hasn't happened yet, so we're covering our bases. But don't panic. We'll find out by the end of the episode. The point is, humanity is finally taking its first steps towards colonizing the moon. The only problem is, do we still remember how to do this?
Let me think about it.
These are the folks trying to take us back to the moon and beyond. And failure is very much an option. This is Hard Reset. Welcome to Firefly Aerospace, a company that makes rockets, spaceships, and pajamas.
We call it the pajamas of the lander. So when you look at something like a drawing in CAD, we have the PJs on and the PJs off.
Well, there you have it. Pajamas. This is Will.
And do I look at you or look at the camera? Or?
Never look at the camera.
Okay.
Yeah, it enrages him.
This is Blue Ghost, their first moon lander, which will absolutely, positively be landing softly and upright on the surface of the moon very soon. We came to see it before it headed into space so that I could try and touch something that was going to the moon.
How often do people try and touch the lander?
Too often, and right now it's powered on, so now it's especially verboten.
Probably a bad idea, yeah. All right.
I was not allowed to do that.
This looks like copper. Is it copper?
That is actually capped on. It's actually got a ITO coating that keeps it from gathering dust after we land. Yeah, I think something that a lot of people don't appreciate is how hand-built these spacecraft are. All of this is sewn like on machines by hand.
So tell me about how this is going to land.
We have a number of different engines on the vehicle. There are 2 on every side, and those pulse to change the thrust as we're coming down. When we reach the surface, you'll see these feet are canted out. Those will go flat, it will trip a sensor, and that will signal engine shut off.
So you have 10 different scientific payloads. Where are they and how do they work?
Up top, a red cap on this gimbal swivels around to look back at Earth. That's got our high gain antenna on it. Under that cap is a retro reflector. And then it has a GNSS receiver on it to try and measure GPS or GNSS signals out as far as the moon, which is about double what's ever been done before. There's a red RBF poking out right here. There are actually 4 probes similar to that shoot out in 4 different directions and land on the lunar surface for a lunar magnetotelluric sounder to try and look at the interior of the moon. It sends waves down into the surface.
Okay, so it's like a sonar? Or like
sort of, yeah.
Okay.
We have an instrument that's drilling down the surface, measuring the thermal gradient. Perhaps like a subterranean habitat would be best suited for astronauts because it's more thermally stable. You can actually see pointing right at us is one of our vision navigation cameras. There's another one right behind it pointing straight down. And that's because different sides of the vehicle are facing the moon at different times during descent. At a certain point, we do have to pitch over and face downward. There are also 10 payload cameras that we are flying. So it should be a very heavily imaged mission.
Right.
We get 10 megabits per second down, roughly equivalent to HD video from the surface of the moon. We also right here have what's called the rack payload that's looking at how regolith interacts with different materials. And you can see there's different materials exposed there on a wheel.
Oh yeah.
Those turn on a turntable, and there's a camera that images those to see how does lunar regolith interact with all these different materials.
Firefly is a private company trying to do something that until recently was too big for anything except governments.
This lander is part of the Commercial Lunar Payload Services program through NASA. It's trying to see if we can do what was done during the Apollo era, but for just fractions of the cost using newer technology. So things like vision navigation. Can we make this affordable, and can we make it commercial so the government isn't footing the bill every time?
Getting good at sending landers to the moon is important because we're going to need to support the astronauts that will be living in the Artemis base. There's no Winco on the moon, so if you need jerky, it's going to have to come up in one of these babies.
NASA recognized that they can't really design, build, test, and operate something quickly anymore or efficiently. So they started outsourcing that to smaller companies that are a little bit more agile and that are a little bit more creative.
Meet Ray. She's not on edge at all.
Is that supposed to be smoking? Just kidding.
Stop. I would just disintegrate. I wouldn't, it's not that I would die, it's that I would have never existed.
See, everything's fine. No one's nervous. Let's all just take a deep breath.
All right.
I think one thing we're kind of resetting people's thought process on is truly our approach to risk. That's a very distinct difference between us, NASA, or larger heritage aerospace companies, is how do we approach risk, how do we manage risk in a way where we can still move quickly and be flexible and be agile.
I think social media shows us this perfect world of everything. That kind of ingrains into a lot of us of thinking like, everything we have to do is perfect. It has to be perfect the first time. And it's never the case. It's absolutely never the case.
This is Annie. You might recognize her from the background of Ray's interview shot.
Hi, my name is Annie Vo Cohen. I am a assembly integration and test engineer. My primary role is to help land our lunar lander on the moon upright, successfully, soft landing. The way that I was taught was to iterate as fast as we can, break it, learn it, understand it, to build it better and more robust so that we're confident in our systems.
So we want to get the engineers out of the cycle of analysis as quickly as possible and actually go build something and break something, because we think that that's the fastest way to learn, with the goal of not being perfect, with the goal of being good enough. I think our structure is a really good example of that. We tested it, it broke. We learned a lot. We recalibrated our model and retested it. We were able to do that really, really quickly because we weren't afraid to break something. And that doesn't mean you're doing things in an unsafe manner or that you're being reckless. It just means that you're not so scared to fail. I think that's important.
Companies like Firefly are taking the space program and making it more affordable. That's important, because if we did this the old-fashioned way, we'd pretty much bankrupt the entire Earth's economy very quickly.
Economics of the moon are very bonkers. It's $1 to $2 million per kilogram to get something to the surface of the moon. So you can imagine a full water bottle is about $1 million to the surface of the moon.
A lot of the Apollo programs, they ended with a B, $1/3 of $1 trillion, multiple billion-dollar projects over decades. It's really important for us to be like $100 million range because it's more about shots on goal. You want to be able to build and launch and land multiple of these very quickly. And you can't do that if each one costs $1 billion. We are significantly less expensive.
This lander is carrying experiments for the lunar surface, but the whole lander is in itself a big experiment. We're trying to see if we can recapture the knowledge of the 1960s space program, the expertise that we lost after decades of neglect.
We had a lot of things in the Apollo days that we don't have now. So we need to regain that expertise. Landing on the moon is still a very difficult thing. And it's especially difficult when you're doing it with fractions of the money being spent during the Apollo era.
But starting from scratch also means you're not limited by the way things were done before.
We're not really bound by what has happened. A lot of the engineers on the program haven't been told no before. So they don't know what they can't do yet. And that opens up a lot of doors to be creative and to try new things and try things differently. It kind of leads to a lot of creativity along the way. You kind of figure it out and make it what it needs to be, not what it has been.
Getting good at going to the moon is just like getting good at anything else. It takes a lot of practice. But if you want to get to 10,000 hours without spending $1 kajillion, you probably need to run some simulations.
Okay, so this is our Mission Ops Center. In the back row right here, we have the mission director team, flight director team, and flight controller team. And then in front of that row is the payload team.
No one is messing around here, by the way. Everyone has 3 monitors. These people are for serious, yo. As stressful as The Sims can get, can that ever compare to the stress of the real thing?
It's probably gonna be much more stressful on the real thing, actually, because the lander's gone. We can't just go power it off and try again or restart the sim. It is real life up there now. But we want to induce as much stressful situations here as possible so that we kind of get used to it as well. It's a bunch of just very focused people in there. They're going to be focused on the steps coming ahead, the current step, and if any anomalies are happening, they're gonna be focused on the anomalies. No bullshit in there.
Basically, this is all hard as The people here are using a controlled explosion to send a machine into the harshest environments imaginable. And then they're driving it across millions of miles of orbital trajectories with tiny margins for error.
You're experiencing extremely hot and extremely cold temperatures, both in orbit and on the surface. You're also experiencing a lot of radiation. And then if you survive orbit, then you land, you're interacting with this extremely fine, hazardous regolith dust that gets into everything. Basically every step of the mission from launch through landing, you're kind of up against these harsh environments.
And piloting the lander isn't like flying anything else. Like, there's no joystick. stick here.
It's like driving a car, but using command prompt terminal on your laptop, right?
This is a terrible way to drive a car.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
The worst way to drive a car. Sudo turn left.
yeah. The first vehicle, Blue Ghost 1, will be our riskiest moon lander. We want to find out where our risks are, right? And we need to give ourselves the time to mitigate those.
They simulate, they test, they break everything. They do it over and over, so that when it finally launches for real, they'll be ready for anything. They hope.
We're all gonna be here watching her data, making sure she's alive. We have 5 planned burns, but we could repeat a couple of them if we need to.
Harrowing. It's stressful.
Oh my God. My stress level, like normally in life has always been like high.
Right.
And then like working at a rocket company has been like even higher. And so it's very nerve-wracking.
I'm beginning to think that maybe just randomly unplugging a handful of cables from the lander was a bad idea, but I'm sure it will turn out fine. It always does. Actually, no, it doesn't. Firefly is a company that has already had its share of notable failures. In 2016, it went bankrupt, but made a comeback a few years later with new investment. In 2021, its Alpha rocket exploded on its first launch, but made a successful attempt just 2 years later. And of course, when it comes to failures, they're in good company. This is the first CLPS mission to land on the moon, flown by Intuitive Machines. It didn't stick the landing. That's probably part of why everyone here at Firefly keeps compulsively saying soft and upright like it's their personal mantra.
Soft, upright landing.
Landing upright and softly.
Softly, upright.
Soft and upright. Soft and upright.
We speak it into truth. We manifest our destiny, right? So we try to make sure that we speak the positive words to the lander so she knows what she needs to do, which is just land upright softly.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff. Go high space.
On January 15th, 2025, the Blue Ghost launched into space and began its 45-day journey to the moon.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
There are countless ways the journey could go wrong, and really only one way for it to go well. But what lands on the moon won't just be a space delivery truck. It will be countless years of human creativity and ingenuity.
T plus 30 seconds into
Impact ignition.
So let's hope it lands softly and upright.
Paul Kahn, Chief Engineer on Ops. Y'all select the landing. We're on the moon.
So as you probably saw, they did it. Firefly was able to land the Blue Ghost Lander soft and upright on the surface of the moon, and they're conducting their experiments right now as I record this. One thing I want to note, though, is that culturally, we tend to think of a success story like this as separate from a failure story. But they're actually the same story. All those failures in the past are what led up to a success like this. This is an incredible achievement. This is another giant leap forward in our ability to explore space and find this new horizon where we can build and create a better future for everybody. So picture a scenario where we don't just recapture the knowledge we need to get to the moon, but how to keep going. This is one of the first steps towards building a permanent colony on the moon, or on Mars, or anything outside of Earth's orbit. It's one of the first steps in a journey that will take us further than we've ever been before. And let's be honest, this is all very expensive. Even with reusable rockets and scrappy startup approaches, this mission costs roughly $100 million. That's a risk. That's money we could have spent on Earth. But these investments we make in exploring our world or our universe have always paid dividends. That drive to explore these frontiers is what forces us to be creative and inventive. And in a way, it's what's always shaped our future.
To 99% of people, space is a dream. It's almost science fiction. One day kids will wake up and it's not science fiction. We want space to be for everyone.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Hard Reset. And if you want to keep supporting our show, please subscribe, please click the bell, and please let us know if there's other topics you'd like us to cover.
This is like the Captain Kirk chair. So tell me about what Captain Kirk does here.
I'm so sorry, I never watched Star Trek.
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for you.
I know.
Come on. All right, I'll restart that.